What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Side Guys Football Forum. As usual, we're going to break down the Thursday Night Football matchup, get into some fantasy, matchups that we like, some that we don't like, just what's the outlook for this game. Tad, we actually have a good one this time, finally.
Jesus.
We have the Los Angeles Rams traveling to play the Seattle Seahawks, a divisional game, NFC West. We've already talked about this before, very competitive. So, yeah, there could be some very, interesting fantasy matchups here. So, you know what? I'm going to pass it to you here first. Are there any sort of matchups or specific players that you like, especially in this game heading into Thursday night?
For sure, but real quick, I just have to mention that I love this matchup because, like we said before, the past couple of Thursday night matchups were not great. I actually apologized to Amar last week. I'm like, man, my energy sucked in last week's Thursday night episode. He goes, well, it was, pretty crappy matchup. No one can blame you. And I was like, no, that's true. So I am super excited for this. Even the storyline, it would be a good matchup regardless, but even the storylines going in to the game, Seattle avoids a disastrous 1-3 start to their season by, Amar, beating the 49ers. The Rams suffer their first loss, which they really shouldn't have lost that game. They should have won it, so they're going to be out for blood. Seahawks want to make sure that they can prove they're legit. I absolutely love it. So, without further ado, let's get into the players I like. I'll go with the first one, and I said in our last episode when we were talking about key waiver wire pickups, guys, tight ends this year, it's a disaster. You have like three main guys you can depend on, and really just about two, because George Kittle's been pretty inconsistent this year. So it's basically you have Darren Waller and you have Travis Kelce. And to quote one of my favorite movies, you have Darren Waller, you have Travis Kelce, you have 50 feet of crap, and then you have the rest of the tight ends. Like, that's basically the way it's working. So here's a guy that for this week only, I say you can trust absolutely. It's Tyler Higbee, the Los Angeles Rams tight end. So he's been a little inconsistent. He had 9 points in week 1, 1 point in week 2, 12 points in week 3, and then dropped back down to 5 points last week in week 4. So, look, if he keeps on going on that pattern, that means he's due for a big week. So, just on that basis alone, look out for him. But I will give you more evidence because I know people, if you're depending on patterns for fantasy football, you're screwed. So, let me give you some more evidence for him going off. The Seahawks defense is inconsistent at best. It led up 30 points both to the Vikings and the Titans. Now, Vikings, I'll let it fly, okay? They seem actually like a surprisingly efficient offense this year, despite their struggles against Cleveland, who is a very good defense. Titans, come on, man. Like, I don't know what's going on with the Titans. Arthur Smith's departure probably is the biggest culprit, but come on. You're going to give up 30 points to Ryan Tannehill, who has yet to throw for multiple passing touchdowns this year. Like, you got to clean that up. So, Seahawks defense isn't that great. And you look specifically at what they've done against tight ends. Seattle has allowed opposing tight ends to go for 14 or more points in the last 2 games. Now, I know what you're saying is, Ted, they've got Robert Woods. They got Van Jefferson. They got Deshaun Jackson. They've got Cooper Kupp. Of course, why the hell would Tyler Higbee get the ball? Look, Higbee's going to get the ball. He has had 5 or more targets with the in 3 of the last 4 weeks. So with a defense that's proven they're really this vulnerable against the tight end, and a tight end who's targeted, I won't say a lot. 5 targets isn't a lot, but it's A, consistent. Like I said, at least 5 targets, 3 out of 4 games so far. And B, 5 targets, you do a lot worse. Take it from me. I have Robert Tonyan on my roster. I know what it's like to have a tight end that doesn't get thrown the ball a lot. Higbee gets the ball a lot. So I think Higbee will end with at least a touchdown, maybe 2. Look for him to put up at least 8 points with this year. That's a damn good tight end performance.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns is stretching it. I could see him getting
maybe.
1.
I said maybe.
I know, but the fact that you even said it, I don't even think that's going to happen.
Don't you send these Twitter people at me.
Definitely, I could definitely see, them scoring I could see him scoring 1 touchdown, but, I don't think he's going to get a ton of targets. I think it's really going to get spread out a lot. I think they may use the running game a little bit more as well. Just to emphasize how bad the Seattle defense has been, they've allowed the most yards in the NFL through 4 weeks of action. That's not something you're used to hearing about a Seahawks defense. Like, they've been Charles Barkley terrible through 4 weeks of the season. Just terrible. Absolutely terrible. Fifth most passing yards allowed, most rushing yards allowed as well. So that's why I'm saying that they could emphasize the run game, with Darrell Henderson as well, Sonny Michel as a complimentary piece. Rams are top 10 in both points scored and yards gained on offense. So I really like a bounce back effort from the Rams. And yeah, the Seattle defense is really not stopping anybody. So Higbee, I think, could get his fair share amount of targets. I think he may get like a red zone touchdown. I can very much see that happening. But consistently throughout the entire game, I don't know if they're going to go to him enough. But yeah, he's very touchdown dependent heading into this matchup. Who else do you like as a good matchup?
Well, real quick, going back to the Seattle defense, I mean, we talked about this on the podcast. I think in the offseason, definitely before the offseason, this is why their contract to Jamal Adams was stupid. Because Jamal Adams, while he's a hard-hitting, kind of old-fashioned safety, that's not what you need from your safety anymore. The Ed Reed type of – I won't even actually say Ed Reed because at least Ed Reed could get an interception.
And you can't even say old-fashioned either because he's a very much in-the-box type of safety that's better against the run as opposed to the pass. Because if you look at a guy like Ronnie Lott, he was a hard-hitting safety, old-school safety, but he was still great in coverage. Jamal Adams is just not the same guy in coverage. He's a very much run defender.
Linebacker.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So, yeah, it's just... Yeah, Seattle defense being so bad is not so surprising, but based on their history, it's a little bit surprising. But
Murray, you ready for a shocker here?
Let's hear
it. This is going to be something you never heard before. Seahawks draft like shit. Jordan Brooks.
I think I may have heard this from somebody before. I try to remember his name.
Jordan Brooks is terrible. What were you doing? And everyone was saying, what were you doing at the time they drafted him? What are you doing? Because the whole thing was, okay, you drafted an inside-outside kind of hybrid linebacker who can't really rush. Well, great. At least he's good in coverage. Unfortunately, since you got rid of KJ Wright and he can't cover Jordan Brooks anymore, everyone now knows Jordan Brooks fucking sucks in coverage. Like, Seattle's the most overrated front office in the league. I said it. I said it. I'm standing by it.
You said it multiple times, so it's not too different to say it again.
Just give me the moment, all right?
All right, let's get off the tangent here. Let's talk about another matchup that you like heading into Thursday night.
Kick me on my beloved tangents. All right. The other guy I love because Seattle's defense is so bad is Robert Woods. Now, look, I know Robert Woods has been off to a slow start.
Interesting. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. He's been very slow to start the season.
Here's a stat that surprised me when I was doing research for this, and this is why I picked him, is I understand that he's only gone for over 10 points twice this season, and one of those was like 10.5, so it was like barely over 10. But this is what shocked me. Woods has 25 targets on the season, which is second only behind Cooper Kupp. That shocked me, especially because I assumed it was Van Jefferson. So the thing is, he's seeing enough looks. It's just, for whatever reason, that connection is not happening. So I'm going to chalk this up to kind of what people are saying about Kyle Pitts and Matt Ryan, and I picked Kyle Pitts as a player to buy low on last week for this exact reason. If you were being targeted that often, it's just a matter of time. It's just math at that point. And I'm very bad at math. That's why I teach English. But it's just mathematics. That if you're getting thrown to that often, eventually something's going to catch on. It's not like a running back where you keep handing him the ball and keep handing him the ball. It depends on another position group, the offensive line, if it's going to work or not. With the wide receiver, if you're that open down the field that you're being thrown to that often, it's going to happen eventually. And you have to remember, last week, 4 catches, 40 yards. Not that impressive, but he finally got a touchdown. So I think that connection with Matt Stafford's finally starting to connect. The Seattle Seahawks have allowed 23 points or more in the last 3 out of 4 games to wide receivers. Not like just one specific wide receiver, to the entire group, but still, Seattle's defense, like we talked about, can't stop anything. I think Robert Woods, a little bit of a risky play, but I put him as a low-end wide receiver 2 in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this before. I think the Rams are in store for a really good bounce-back game after losing to Arizona. And same thing for Robert Woods, too. I think he can sort of reestablish himself as a really good target in this offense. I know it's all been Cooper Kupp so far in this passing offense. Matthew Stafford's been going to him consistently, but I think this is a really good game for Robert Woods to sort of go off of and establish himself again as a premier receiver in the league. And, you have to look at the fact that it's just like, the Seahawks defense is so bad, but it's just like the reason that they ended up winning that game is because the Niners offense was so horrid in that game. I mean, the Niners easily should have been 3-1, but just they couldn't do anything on offense. Seattle had 5 straight 3-and-outs to start that game, and they also tallied only 234 total yards in that game. So it's like a more complete team in Los Angeles playing against a team like that. Oh, they're absolutely going to run him out of the stadium. Like, it's not going to be a good homecoming for Seattle. Exactly. So it's like, I really like the Rams to sort of, take whatever happened against Arizona, put it behind them on the short week, really just come back strong and just really put it to Seattle and establish themselves as one of the front runners to win the NFC West. Like, I mean, I know we sort of went into this broadcast saying that it's going to be a good matchup, but part of me actually sort of feels that it could get one-sided early.
No, I disagree with you there. I think Seattle is a good enough team to stay in it.
It's true.
It's going to take a Herculean effort for them to pull out this win. And, I mean, what a weird switch of events is if you guys go back and listen to the Desai guys, division deep dives that we did this summer, our predictions are bad. We kind of were like, okay, Seattle might be in the running. LA, if Stafford's good, could be in the running, so at least we got that right.
Yeah.
I think both of us were like, we're just not completely in on Arizona now. Arizona's leading this division.
It's true.
Like, it's crazy.
It's true.
So I think that Seattle can stay in the running, but weirdly enough, it's looking like Seattle's the worst team in this division right now.
Yeah, it's very much looking like that. And I think just the biggest thing that I say that it could get one-sided, I know I say this every time and I still believe it, in divisional games you never know just what's going to happen in a game because you know your opponent so well. So it could very well be a very highly contested match. The only reason that I'm saying is that if Seattle plays the same way that they played against San Francisco in the first half, like I said, LA is just a lot better team and a more complete team that they'll take advantage of those 3-and-outs that, Seattle put up 5 straight, like I said, in that game against San Francisco, and they have a more complete offense that they could capitalize on that and end all of those drives with scoring drives, as opposed to San Francisco only scoring 7 points in that span. So that's what I'm saying, that it could get one-sided early. Seattle does have the capability to come back and everything like that. So I still anticipate that it'll be a good game, but like I said, it could get over early depending on what happens with Seattle. So that's a key factor for sure. So Tad, I know you mentioned some good matchups that you like. Are there any matches that you're staying away from that you should not be putting in your starting roster, especially with the bigger slate of games happening on Sunday, Monday? Who should you avoid with the Thursday night game? Keep them on your bench.
I mean, look, I'll say just real quick, I won't go through all the reasons why. If you still have Sony Michel, 1, don't start him. 2, drop him. Drop him right now. It's Tuesday as a recording. I know usually we don't say we're recording, but here's why, is if you still have him when this video releases, you better have his ass off your roster by next Tuesday, okay? I don't know why he's still there. It's because, look, I get it. I drafted him. I do an auction draft. I drafted him for $1 because I was like, you know what? Maybe he can't overtake Henderson. No, he had his chance when Henderson was hurt. He sucks. He didn't do much with it. He is barely a valuable backup. So if Henderson gets hurt again, great. I can almost 100% guarantee you he will still be on the waivers if Henderson gets hurt, so you can pick him back up again. Get rid of him. He is not worth anything. There are much more valuable running backs out on the waiver wires that you can pick up. Who, you may be asking, well, that's why you should check out the rest of our playlist, because we tell you who the best running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends are to pick up this week. How about that for a plug? Anyway, I want to get more in depth on this player because he's been getting a ton of hype over the past 2 weeks. That's Alex Collins, Chris Carson's backup. Now, look, I know Collins was close or maybe equal with Chris Carson 2 weeks ago. Some people are like, maybe. And then he actually out-touched Carson this week. He had more rushes, more yards. Frankly, he was just more efficient than Chris Carson was this week. Put up, I believe, 14 points. Again, it varies because it depends on the format of your league. Here's the point of the season where I start getting annoyed with all the here's who you should pick up articles. Not us, though, because we're smart like this because we avoid this trap. Is what a lot of those articles do is they just pick up, they look at the guys still available in like 90% of the leagues and go, okay, he scored the most, pick him up. In the beginning of the season, that can pay off a lot. At this point where we're getting closer and closer to midseason, that just means a backup had a weird good week, and he's never going to repeat it again. That's exactly what happened with Alex Collins here. So, look, I understand that, Chris Carson wasn't great at the point where Collins actually surpassed him in carries. Chris Carson had 13 carries for 30 yards. So this wasn't happening against the 49ers for whatever reason. But he's not hurt. He's still the number one guy. there's no reason to think Alex Collins is going to take over him for the number one running back spot. Because I know a lot of people are going to go, well, Chris Carson has been that dependable. Production-wise, yes, he has. He's been a very productive running back. It's just the injuries have been his problem. He hasn't been injured yet this season, so there's no reason to bench him for Alex Collins. So, look, I know Collins has been hot this week or the past couple weeks, but if you're picking up and playing him thinking that's a smart flex play, don't do it because that's going to bite you in the ass hard. Don't, look, if you're really desperate for some running back depth in a 14-man league, I still think you can find better value elsewhere. Alex Collins isn't a terrible pickup, but only as a bench player. If you're picking him up as a flex player or try and be even super sneaky and as this could be a running back too, scores a touchdown and sneaks in 15 points, don't do it, especially against the Rams. Don't do it. Just wait back and see, because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Alex Collins does start taking over, but don't guess it the second week of his so-called homecoming or coming out party. That's just not going to happen. So just stay away from Alex Collins.
See, this is where I contradict you because the Seahawks could be able to gain yardage on the ground against the Rams because they surrendered 216 rushing yards to the Arizona Cardinals last week, and majority of those rushing yards came from Chase Edmonds, who's the more nimble running back in that backfield for Arizona compared to James Conner. Yes, James Conner got the 2 rushing touchdowns, but I think with Chris Carson, he is not as nimble of a running back compared to Alex Collins. So maybe Chris Carson's more of that, straight cut, hit the hole and just go downhill sort of running ability there. Whereas, Alex Collins has more pass catching ability. He's a little bit more speedy than, Chris Carson is. Not that much, but a little bit more. So I think there's going to be versatility with him a little bit more to take advantage of the Rams defense compared to Chris Carson, where they have Aaron Donald up front that can sort of just shut them down, very similar to what San Francisco was able to do. That's why they went to Alex Collins a little bit more. So that's where I can see it happening. I still think it's a risky play. I still think you shouldn't be playing him, but I'm just saying that if he does go off, it's because of that reason.
I mean, this isn't the perfect comparison, but it's off the top of my head, so I just have to go with it. Saying Alex Collins is more nimble than Chris Carson is like saying Brandon Jacobs is a better receiving back than Jerome Bettis. Neither one of them are good at it. Just one's slightly better than the other. You're comparing 2 running backs that basically have the same skill set. Just one's better than their specific skill set than the other. So, sure. Is he a little bit more nimble? Sure, but it's not like a lightning thunder situation like CJ2K and Lendell White were. I don't know why I'm bringing up all these early 2000 running backs, but screw it. So I get what you mean, but I disagree. I don't think I think Alex Collins is going to be one of those guys that people pick up, they keep him on the roster for a week or two, and they go, why did I do this again? And then drop him.
And that's completely fair. I'm just saying that if we see him more involved in this game, that's the reasoning why. But like I said, it's still a risky play. It's still a risky play. I wouldn't do it either. I wouldn't do it either.
In this game, then I will say maybe be on the lookout for Chris Carson to start losing some significant touches to Alex Collins. But as it stands now, I just think that was a weird fluky week.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. So that's our fantasy analysis for Thursday Night Football. We got the Rams traveling to play the Seattle Seahawks, as we mentioned. Yeah, it could be a very interesting game. It could get one-sided, like I sort of mentioned earlier. But yeah, we hope you were able to take all this information and, be able to use it wisely. Yeah, we definitely want you to keep following us on the LAFB Network channel here. We got our own channel to take out all of your fantasy information that you sort of need. Make sure you're following us at all the Twitter handles that we have below. My handle, I'm the side 23, Tad's Tad the side 94, the show handle D the side guys, and hey, if you notice the shirt that Tad's wearing, we do have merch, and you can find a link to that shirt on Dark Clothing. And if you want a lighter piece of clothing, then we also have a link to that as well. You can get some shirts. They have lots of other things. You can get like mugs, you can get stickers, you can get folders. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can get with our logo on it.
They come in almost correct me if I'm wrong, they come in almost 24 colors or something.
Yeah, there's a good amount of colors.
It's very boring. It took me a while because I was like, do I want to go with gray? And maybe I should go with this or this. And finally I decided for dark gray. But there are a ton of colors if you guys want to go for something a little brighter. Exactly.
There are a ton of options out there, so we'll put both links in the comments below if you want to get some merch. And yeah, that will end our episode today. And yeah, hopefully we're finally in store for a good Thursday Night Football matchup.
God, we can hope so.